Chris Mannix joined us yesterday on short notice after we learned that Danny Ainge stepping down, Brad Stevens stepping up, and Chris wanted some answers to some questions. He got a chance to take part in the press conference yesterday, and Chris on loan from Sports Illustrated, their senior writer with the NBA. Chris, I feel like I know less today than I did yesterday. How do you feel about this situation?
Well, I think I know, or maybe know is the wrong word. I feel a little more comfortable with certain aspects of this. Specifically, I'm less certain that Brad Stevens would have been back as head coach if he wasn't elevated to this job. And that was the question I asked Brad yesterday. Would he be comfortable and happy going forward just as the head coach? And look, he answered in the affirmative, but if you listen to the answer, it wasn't, kind of a resounding yes, to that question. So I wonder about that. Now, I do think if the Celtics had hired Sam Presti, as they probably should have, he would have had convinced Brad Stevens, if he needed convincing, to stay on. The relationship between those two is rock solid. But if it had just been anybody else, an internal promotion, Mike Zarin, the assistant GM there, I don't know. Maybe he would have stuck around for a year, but I don't know if he would have been as committed as he's been for the last 8 years as the head coach.
I just don't know if they strengthen the organization. If Ainge steps down and then you take your coach and then you put him into the front office and his first job is to then hire a coach to replace him, they had one of the bright young coaches in the NBA.
They did. And a coach that, despite a rocky last few years, was still widely regarded by his peers as a top 5 coach, top 10, however you want to frame it, in the NBA. And now they begin a coaching search for his replacement while he is running the front office as a novice. I completely agree with you. I don't know how you can look at the situation objectively and say the organization improved. Now, who he hires as coach will influence that opinion, but I know I sound like a broken record, Dan, with the Sam Presti stuff, but that's the best GM in basketball who grew up in suburban Massachusetts, who probably views the Celtics as his dream job. Where's the phone call? Where is the aggressiveness? Why did this move need to happen right now? I don't think Brad Stevens is worse than other candidates. I'm specifically only talking about Sam Presti, an elite general manager who was available. I don't know why that conversation didn't take place.
But was there a chance that Brad Stevens was not going if he didn't move up? Like, was he given a, hey, we need you to move up because Danny Ainge is retiring?
No. To hear Wick Grossbeck explain it and to hear people behind the scenes sort of talk about it, it wasn't a, you've got to do this. It was Danny's idea, I believe, first, and Brad Stevens eventually warmed to it. I don't think you can understate, Dan, overstate rather, how important and influential the last 3 years has been on this decision. If the Celtics had been conference finalists or NBA finalists over the last 3 years with no issues whatsoever, I think Brad Stevens might be more motivated to stay on that job. If he saw a championship light at the end of the tunnel, but 18-19 was brutal. Last year was the bubble season, which was stressful, and this year had so many problems. So if you're Brad Stevens, maybe a break feels good for you. As I said to you yesterday, you can always, if you're Brad Stevens, go back to coaching. Like that opportunity will be available to you. This might not be. So I completely understand why Brad Stevens jumped on it. Again, the question is why the Celtics, without conducting a deeper search, offered it.
It'd be like me going into the front office at ESPN to then oversee all of the SportsCenter anchors. It just doesn't. What I do well is anchor SportsCenter, not oversee SportsCenter anchors. Something's missing here. That's all.
It is well, look, one of the overriding factors is the regard in which Celtics ownership holds Brad Stevens. I mean, all the public clamoring for Brad Stevens' job over the last couple of years has been nonsense because ownership firmly believes in him and firmly believes in his basketball acumen. So I don't think another organization would have offered Brad Stevens this job, but the Celtics, because of how much respect they have for him, they believe that he can do it. But you're right. It is a mixed bag with this stuff, right? Like Pat Riley certainly did it exceedingly well.
Yeah.
Danny Ainge did it exceedingly well. Both those guys are ex-players, but I don't know if that's as relevant as it used to be. But there have also been the flip side. I mean, Tom Thibodeau was an abject disaster as the head coach, the GM of the Timberwolves. There are other examples of coaches jumping into that situation and not doing well. So it's hard to gauge how well it's going to go for Brad Stevens with these results that we know about around the league.
He's Chris Mannix, the senior writer, Sports Illustrated, covering the NBA. Who's in worse shape, Lakers or Clippers?
Well, because we don't know the status of Anthony Davis and because their elimination game comes first, I guess we'll say the Lakers in this situation. Look, I picked the Suns to win on the show before. I didn't think they'd win like that. I didn't think they'd come out and just storm the Lakers in that game. And if Davis plays, I can't imagine him being close to 100%. And the presence of Chris Paul in that lineup, I think, will mitigate kind of the overwhelming feelings those players will feel being in a closeout type of game. So I'm going to say the Lakers, but man, can the Clippers do anything to stop Luka Doncic when he's right? I don't. I heard you say Luka's numbers. What makes those numbers that much more remarkable is that he's done it all against the Clippers, and he's done it entirely against two elite defenders like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. He's not going to go up against many better defenders than those guys in the postseason. So add that to the remarkableness of what Kawhi's doing. But it's important for the Lakers to win. Obviously, I don't think it affects LeBron's legacy one way or the other. But man, if the Clippers bow out in the first round, changes will be coming in Los Angeles. That's for sure.
Let me go back to Luka here because I wonder when the media turns on him that he puts up these incredible numbers. Are you going to get close to winning a championship? Like, at what point do we ask for receipts here where it's, hey, Luka, unbelievable performance. Then you're going to be asking if, let's say they don't make it out of this round. I mean, the media is going to turn on him at some point and say, is he too ball dominant? I don't know. There's a James Harden, Russell Westbrook feel of always having the ball here.
Yeah, there is, although he's very much a facilitator when he has that ball, too. I mean, he's an elite passer. And, Porzingis made a big shot last night, but he was awful for much of that game. In general, I ask for proverbial receipts when a player has championship talent around him. And I'll make it a comparison here. Like Donovan Mitchell. A lot of people jumped on Donovan Mitchell this season. You saw the Shaq interview where Shaq said, "You're not the guy." Other people have said something similar. I kind of shook my head at that. Like, Donovan Mitchell, before this season, has never been surrounded by championship-level teammates. So I never it was a bad look to blow the 3-1 lead in the bubble last year, but it was the bubble. They didn't have Bojan Bogdanovic, and Mike Conley was in and out of that lineup during that series. This year, I want receipts from Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. This year, I want to see Donovan Mitchell, at a bare minimum, get to the conference finals, if not get all the way to the NBA finals. Luka's not quite there yet. That's a good team in Dallas. Tim Hardaway has been excellent for them. Jalen Brunson, a revelation. But as they add pieces around him and they get to that championship level, that's when you start expecting Luka to take that team to that level.
Would you ask the question to Anthony Davis about his new nickname? And if so, how would you ask that question?
I don't even know what his new nickname is. What are we?
Street Clothes by Charles Barkley.
Oh, I didn't hear that. No, I would not ask. The brow's too good. Like, why change? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, Street Clothes is not a good nickname. Brow is a
Oh, yeah. The guy, this is like, I have this argument in Boston all the time about, did the Celtics tune out Brad Stevens? Well, they were in the conference finals last year, so I'm going to say no. Anthony Davis is injured a lot, but he won a championship last year, so I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a little bit too early to start tagging him with that. Like Chris Paul, frankly, if Chris Paul's injury had been more significant, it probably would have reflected more, poorly on him than it would Anthony Davis, because it seems like every time Chris Paul gets on a team that has that potential, an injury comes about, whether it's the Rockets team that was in the conference finals or this team this year with that shoulder injury. So I think it's more important for Chris Paul to be healthy in this series than Anthony Davis.
Oh, no, Anthony Davis has to be healthy because that's bigger picture, that they can win a championship. If Chris Paul's healthy...
You don't think Phoenix can win a championship?
If Anthony Davis is healthy, no.
Well, I mean, look, I'm saying if they get past the Lakers.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You don't think Phoenix can,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a wide open field. I mean,
how about I give you the Suns and I take the field in the West?
No. I'm taking the field. I think they can win a championship.
Oh, they can. Well,
No,
so can Denver.
You basically eliminated them before they played Game 6. So I'm just, advocating for Ricky Rubio's former team.
Is Ricky
They
Rubio?
would have been right here with Ricky Rubio.
Yeah, they would have been
right here. In the same
yeah, right in Boston with you out of the playoffs, where
Right
they would have
here.
been. Is Rubio still in the league?
Yes, he's still in the league.
Oh, okay.
He was guiding the Timberwolves to. I can't even finish that sentence.
Is that the worst organization?
No, because I think Gerson Rosas taking over a year ago starts to turn it in the right direction. But no, I mean, I think Cleveland looks like they're in worse shape.
But do you think Minnesota is staying, that the Timberwolves will stay in Minnesota?
I don't. And this is pure speculation on my part. But, Glenn Taylor getting caught with his pants down in that lawsuit where there's, no language in that contract that says he has to. By the way, Dan, and you know this, like, even if there is language in that contract, it's unenforceable. Like, you can find a loophole that says, well, we lost money here, so we got to move the team. Like, there's no teeth to any language there. If you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, the only way you're keeping your franchise is if A-Rod and Mark Lowry invest in, $100 million plus renovation of the Target Center or build a new one. That is the only evidence you'll have that the Timberwolves will stay. Otherwise, I'd be keeping my eye on Seattle.
Yeah, but Garnett's going to get involved in this, and KG wants to keep the team in Minnesota.
I mean, how involved is he going to be, though? And,
I don't know.
Money talks at some point. And if, again, it comes down to the arena. Like, the Target Center has been renovated a couple of times in recent years, but it's, I think, 20-plus years old at this point, which is right around the time you start wondering if there's a new arena. If they build a new arena in suburban Minnesota, okay. But until then, I'm just going to believe that there's going to be one eye on Seattle, which is going to get more and more aggressive as the NHL pops up there and it starts to become a professional sports town once again.
Thank you, Chris. As always, we appreciate your time.
Are you going to call me tomorrow?
I'll call you the rest of your life if you want me to.
Will you call tomorrow, Dan? Will you call? You won't call.
If the Suns win?
Oh, I'm calling if the Suns win. No, you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be texting
Chris
me.
in Boston. Chris in Boston coming
Yes,
in
Chris.
hot from the call line.
Hot. Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
You got it, Dan.
That's Chris Mannix. He's going to be calling in tomorrow